Aye, and welcome to the Westway Man Cave for another edition of a talk through the Kilmarnock music scene. Today we welcome two stalwarts of the scene from the Longhorns, Willie Fraser and Mr. Barry Meechan. Thanks very much for joining us today, lads.
Thanks for having us.
Brilliant.
Right, lads, what was your first musical memory?
Mine, what you talking about, first song you can remember?
First musical memory?
Mine was Middle of the Road, Chirpy Cheep Cheep, which would have been 72 or something, which would have made me about 5. I think it was 72, but thinking about it, I'm like, that's kind of the first song I ever remember. And they were a good band, Middle of the Road.
Chick Young's wife sang on them.
She was a great singer.
Aye, Chick Young's wife.
He's got a better memory than me.
Yeah.
My dad played guitar, so there was always a bit of country music in the house, and actually we ended up playing guitar with him as well. But first time I really remember kind of music was we were in the run up to Scotland, Argentina, 78 and all that, and that's all I was into. And then all of a sudden you started to hear like Blondie and The Jam and Elvis Costello and all that coming through. That's the first time I thought, oh, there's other things other than football.
Which leads me on to the next question. See, when you were growing up, what kind of music influenced you when you were at an age, when you were first getting into music?
When I first got into music was obviously the full first wave of punk, which I would have been primary school, 10, and I'm not saying I was right into it, but I was into it. I had badges and I was interested in bands and that, and from there that was probably my big thing, all the kind of first wave. Obviously, The Clash, my favourite band. Going on a bit after that, they probably Stiff Little Fingers. That was like my two kind of main bands, and then all the other kind of bands on the periphery of that. But that would be where a bit of always was kind of into 60s kind of stuff as well. I still kind of, but don't really overly listening to it. But The Who, I was a big fan of The Who, so that would have been me predominantly.
Similar. I suppose everybody thinks the time that they were born, music was great then, but we were lucky. I mean, you come into all that stuff, you've mentioned some of the bands, then you roll into like, you've got the Specials and Madness and R.E.M. and U2 and throw in ACD. All that was happening, and you kind of liked it all because then you look back and you think, that was pretty special.
My introduction into country was Willie's dad, who was a massive country fan. And working with Willie's dad, all that get played in the van was country, and it kind of had a strange effect that you kind of go into it, and it's kind of stayed with us musically. From then, there's always been a wee element of kind of country to our kind of sound, and that would say.
Well, I remember
where it would come from.
He one day said, "Would you and Barry come and do a gig with him and Frank?" That was the guy in their band, the guitarist, had died. And the two
name of the band was Montana.
So we became the Montana Longhorns. So the first time we've turned up, we'd never even rehearsed. And he laid down a list of 53 songs. And we were like, right, they just shout as the key. And I'd come in, and then Barry would do a wee lead, and then my dad would sing it, and in between all the verses, we'd do the same thing.
It's funny you're talking about country, because it is quite kind of, you can get into it really easily, because as you know, I love my punk, my goth stuff, my rock stuff and that, but my wife really loves country music, and during lockdown she was playing it, and I get right into it. That's some
not modern country though.
And older stuff as well.
I don't like modern country.
I like a lot of it.
But Darius Flicker, Barry.
I don't know.
I do like bits that I like through all the different generations, and other bits switch me off, but yeah, that's kind of the backbone of some of the stuff we did later on.
Waylon Jennings, aye.
Yeah, that Waylon Jennings sound, I think, comes right through in Razor's Edge.
Yeah.
We'll just play that earlier, aren't we?
So how did the Longhorns come about?
Right. Yeah, the origins of the Longhorns, the first band I had just previous to the Longhorns was Pure Mania, which the name came from.
The Vibrators.
Vibrators album, which that was Bully Murray, Big Mur. That was his name, and that band was me, him, and a guy, Paul Curry. I don't know if you know Paul.
Still see Paul regularly.
And that came about.
He had the big Vox black.
Paul was 2 years older than me at school, He was quite a cool dude. He was into the Stranglers and he had a black bass that ticks all the boxes. So that
He's
was
still
it.
heavily into this
And
one.
aye, in those days, to start a band, well, when I did, I chapped your door and asked you, did you want to be in a band? And it was what you going to play. Can't mind, mentioned a couple of bands, that's what we're going to do. So he was in. Then the next one was Murwho, MD for New Farm, where I known Murwho was a bit mental. So that was a bit of a feat going to his door and chapping that. His dad played the drums, his brother Ian was a good drummer.
Yeah.
So that was him recruited. So that was the first kind of incarnation. It didn't last too long, like one gig, I think.
So I went to see that gig. So we get guitars at the same time, didn't we? Like so early '83. I think I got mine in the January, and that's when we started. We'd never played. We just wanted to be in a band. Then I went to see that band playing with the System at New Farm Community. I think the System at that point were evolving into the Midnight Buskers, and they had all the energy that night. And then I remember I was still playing football. I was at school. I was in 6th year, and I must have been late for school because I was walking up behind the school, coming in, and Barry came up down the street and said, right, I'm forming a new band, do you want to come in it? And it ended up, when I turned up, it was Mur. So you get Mur, who's this
a bit quiet man.
bit quiet, but kind of intense energy, like exercise mixed cell waiting to go off, sitting behind you. And then Roddy, who I'd never met before, you met Roddy somewhere else. Roddy was there, and he was a force of nature. I was almost like the Spinal Tap bass player, like sitting going, fucking hell, what's going on here? But there was kind of just something in it.
And that came about with Roddy. Had kind of got into the kind of psychobilly stuff probably about 83, something like that, round about that. And I can't even remember where I met him, at some disco, like Lake Kirk or something like that, and I had a Guanabats t-shirt on, which he then proceeded to interrogate me about to see if I had the credentials to be a bona fide psychobilly, which I wasn't too sure about, but we kind of struck up a friendship, and then I was like, I am starting a band. And we really had auditions at the old Jimmy, but it wasn't really auditions, because once he kind of arrived with the entourage, that was it, ticked all the
He
boxes.
auditions, and he auditioned us.
So that was that was the line-up, myself, Roddy, Murrow on drums and Willie on bass.
I'm sure maybe the second Legion gig ever at the Gateway, I'm sure Pure Mania played was that night.
So my first gig I played was Pure Mania, and then the next gig had the Longhorns.
I can't remember if it was you played
Yeah.
or Curry played, but I'm sure, I think it was Curry. The second gig we did, I think we played, the first gig was with the Burning. It was the third gig I think we did. I'm sure it was definitely you definitely played.
I remember the set list for the first Longhorns gig. We did 6 songs at the Gateway.
I don't remember things like that.
Like 2 Class songs, 2 Ramones songs.
But that was it, and we were off and running then, and very quickly it was kind of, it was just like, from get-go, it was mental. You know, the thing about the early Longhorns, it was fucking nuts, man. Like, everywhere we went, there was chaos, and it was kind of like pure punk rock, which that's what kind of Roddy brought to it, do you know what I mean? Just like, genius, really. So,
When you're saying, Willie, can you play 2 Clash songs? One of them was Brand New Cadillac, and I always remember there's a break in it, and Mur hit the drums, and then he's supposed to start drumming it again, and he just stopped, and he's kind of, and you were all standing there, and then you looked in Barry and went, Mur, and he went, all right. Next minute, I always remember that.
What was the other last song? We always finished with.
Was
Police and Thieves.
it Police and Thieves? Yeah, we played that together, Barry.
I mean, he was a man of few words, Billy, unless he had a drink in him, but he was got a good drum.
So leading on to the next question, what's your memories of your early gigs?
Well, Barry touched on something there. To me, I was in this cocoon of these kind of, Roddy was a force of nature, Mur, energy. He's a bit of a firecracker on, I'm in the middle of this going, and wherever we went, it was mobbed. There was a police incident in Sturton when we get escorted off the stage at the town and all that, and I'm like, I can't live here, so I'll just go that way. But everywhere we went, there was like that first 6 months, it was mental, and then there was a a moment about maybe we should start doing our own songs, and it kind of just went in a different direction. But it was first number of months. I remember you saying to me, we've played 16 different venues in Kilmarnock, and I think one of them was somebody's house in Shortleys.
Aye.
I mean, it was just mental.
Was there no Watkins
Aye, Westonbury Festival.
living room? Aye.
That's
Aye.
right. Aye.
And the police came or something. Aye.
That's right.
That's right.
You're talking about doing it yourself.
Glastonbury. Glastonbury Festival.
Aye, that's right. Aye.
Only happened once, aye.
So how does the songwriting work?
In those days, pretty kind of fast. Like, basically, I'd just come in with an idea, and it would get formed in the room. Literally, Roddy would write lyrics on the spot. Like, on the spot. Whether you think these lyrics were good or no, smart cookie, fucking sharp hombre, man. He would write songs. Like, I'd play him the idea, show Willie what the chord progression was, put some drums to it. He'd away and sit in the corner with his notebook, and then he'd basically come up with a melody.
So that came about. You've got to remember, we were hardly playing in that demo there. So it was December 86, 3 songs. So Infection, Feeling Down, and State of the Union. They were practically the first 3 things we did.
Aye, but the thing about...
It's that one, I think it's that one there. It's the demo, aye.
The thing was with the music, obviously when we started off, it was kind of psychobilly. But very quickly we moved away. I don't know, that was a thing, but the music wasn't really, because we very quickly... We weren't really like a psychobilly band musically. We kind of, I don't know what you would have said it was. There was elements of that in it. Maybe on the album, aye, but no, really.
It wasn't out and out psychobilly,
No.
was it?
But
No.
see, the songwriting, we went into the course, we were to record 8 songs. We went into the studio with 3 days to do it, and we had 7 songs.
That said that to me yesterday. We were talking about it in the van, and he brought that up and said, "I we were a song short because we needed 8, and you just wrote one in the studio that day, and he wrote the lyrics
War Cry in the recording studio on the first
I
day.
don't know if that's good. That is the kind of speed we used to work at, and that's the confidence. It was kind of, that's how it
And what
worked.
you could tell is we were listening a lot then to his new model army, you could hear that coming through in the sound.
Well, there was a bit of that about it.
Totally.
Because Roddy was a massive New Model Army fan.
So that's
There was with that one, aye. Well, that was a
because that's what we're listening to, the early van.
You're what learning, basically, aye.
But he was, I mean, I've been friends with Roddy since he started.
Okay.
Secondary school, one of my brothers here at school, and
Yeah.
I was going great with him. And he was a
It's a great front man.
great front man,
Fantastic front man.
brilliant front man, no inhibitions
Who knows
whatsoever.
what would have happened?
I know.
I know.
Talking about.
Aye, I know, great.
Things move on and you have to evolve, you know.
I know.
So you recorded the album Feeling Down. How did that come about?
That was through John Andrews. Aye, John was kind of like a pseudo manager. Aye, and John was a really nice guy and did a lot for us, and I got on really well with him. And he, you're talking about that guy today. Who's he?
It's just Sandy McLean,
Sandy
53rd and 3rd over in Edinburgh. So they did all the kind of fast forward stuff and all the Edinburgh bands. And
But John put that together. I mean, they funded all that.
uh-huh.
They paid for it.
John did.
No,
Sandy
he put us in Mental Records. But it was him that set it all up, you know, and it's also John that put the meters on it, Air Pavilion, he did a lot for us, actually.
He was trying to put us in the later stages, linking us up with some producer guy, but there was loads of money in it, and we were like,
He kept trying to get me to listen to Talking Heads, which I subsequently listened, but at the time it was like, fuck.
it's too difficult to play.
Yeah. That was his favourite band, Talking Heads.
Well, it was a good.
Which he constantly played in his had a Range Rover. So he ticked all the boxes to be a manager, you know what I mean?
John
a
did
bit
talk, he was
dodgy,
good, aye.
you know what I mean? But aye.
He took me when we had the single. Remember, you and I did a bit of publicity around BBC and all that stuff. We're in Radio Clyde. He took me around because he was working for one of the distribution companies, distributing all the records, and he was doing Glasgow on the Friday. And he took me into HMV in Glasgow, and he said to the guy, "Put on the Longhorns, will you?" And he really put it, and I'm like, John, how did you do that?
He stays up the valley now, doesn't he?
Does he?
Aye, I keep
Mills, did he?
the new Mills.
I keep in contact with him.
Yeah.
He was on Facebook, he was on the kind of pseudonym on
True.
Facebook, so I better not give it out. But aye, John's a good guy.
Oh, that's
Aye.
he does a lot in those
Aye.
areas. Brilliant record shop.
Great record.
Oh,
With Craig Waiting no long ago.
Aye.
Oh, with Craig, I always remember Craig.
With Craig, aye.
Meeting Craig on the bus, and me and Paul, and he says, you heard the new Leonard Cohen album? Do you know what, Craig? I haven't. You really got to hear the subtle orchestrations now. I let it wait till go.
yeah.
I was Craig though, innit? Do you know what I mean?
Oh, he was a great.
Aye,
I
he's
Craig,
right.
didn't he? His musical knowledge.
Not being
incredible.
a Cohen fan at the time.
Are you new a Cohen fan, Barry?
I can appreciate the man. Aye.
What was your favourite places to play back in the day and now?
And Kilmarnock.
Anywhere?
Our kind of residency when it was there was the Burn Park Hotel, which in itself was a fucking crazy place. But so there, that was always good. Where else?
Well, I thought Vicky's was a special period.
Aye.
Vicky's was
Yeah, it was. Aye, it was good. Yeah. Aye, we were kind of spoiled, there, weren't we? Labour Club, that was good. Where else? There's that many.
Don't forget the Gateway that started.
Ah, the Gateway was an amazing place.
We
Amazing, really. Where it all started for
We
everyone.
were spoiled, didn't we?
Aye.
once we did the single, we kind of spent more time in other places as you would naturally do, and we did an awful lot in the unis, like whether it was up the East Coast or in Glasgow. In fact, we were booked one night to play both unis in the Mad March Ball. I think one was supporting Men They Couldn't Hang, the other was Hue and Cry. And Glasgow Tech, as it was at the time, got wind that we were doing two because we were setting up two drum kits and doing them at different times. So we were lucky then because the live scene in unis and the bands that used to go and play unis back in the late 80s and early 90s was phenomenal.
That was a bit.
Did you get
that
quite a
was
lot
a bit
of
later on.
I did
Was it
that
yourself?
stuff. I used to,
Aye, well, but that stage, that's a bit later. That's like kind of once Roddy had left the band, and it kind of got a bit more serious. If you know
What happened there? Did you even
I said,
know?
no
It's one of
gonna
those
go
things.
into
No, okay.
personal evidence kind of documented. Derek, that Roddy had a few problems and blah blah. I mean, the thing came about your question, the Proclaimers, whatever happened, and it's happened to us a few times in the band. Her Majesty took away one of our members to kind of lock them up for a wee bit, so we kind of had to adapt, and that's when it went to.
No, I actually wasn't aware of that.
That's what happened. Aye, that was
your first gig in the mic?
that was fine, which I didn't particularly want to do, be the front man, but that's just how.
And
it
do you know
came
what? That
about.
was like 2 weeks after we'd finished recording the album, and our next gig was supporting the Proclaimers, and Roddy wasn't available.
That's why.
So how did you take to being the front man, Barry?
I didn't really enjoy it. Kind of, I never ever saw myself as the front man. I always kind of just saw myself as a guitar player, side man. Mick Jones, my hero, standing at the side, let the other guy do all that kind of stuff. Which probably still thinking that, you know what I mean? But many years later, so it kind of comes naturally. I feel like.
The thing about B was Roddy, big shoes to fill.
Oh, aye.
I mean, even if you compared Roddy with most other bands, even outside Kilmarnock, he had something.
He done a kind of magnetism, didn't he?
Aye,
Correct.
So just
charisma, aye,
it's a
charisma.
difficult one. Bono leaves you too, who's stepping forward.
Aye, exactly.
No,
Aye, I know what you
caring,
mean, aye.
but there was a big
Aye,
gap.
a massive-
There was a gig on Friday.
So it was very difficult for you. Ian. I could not even want to be the front man, but you're only to replace a guy who's a brilliant front man. So
Then for
I play
that,
guitar.
then for there, well, that's when we went on for there. That's when Stuart came into the band, Stuart Laybourne.
What
Stuart was a
guitarist
big,
was.
Stuart was a big part of the band and was in the band for quite a long time, and through a period where we gigged all over Scotland. I mean, we stopped playing in Kilmarnock really, but we were doing like over 100 gigs a year. But all of it. So Stuart was a part of that full period and right down to the moving to London.
Very underrated guitar.
Oh, fantastic guitar
And
player.
off a nice fella.
Yeah.
as
Well, it
well.
was.
Aye.
It was a great guitarist. That.
So that kind of, when it went for there, obviously, that kind of cemented being the... We never ever really thought about bringing in somebody else to be the singer, did we? Kind of
No,
wrote the
I
songs, so it was a natural...
I wasn't
Although
offended
I
at all.
always...
You know?
I still can't... Still can't...
I wasn't offended at all.
Dave, I was thinking when Paul and Barry, they brought another. I mean, we were talking about this earlier. We're lucky with some of the people that have come here. We've had 2 brilliant drummers, maybe more. We've had Dougie and we mentioned Stuart there. If you'd thrown you in, it's been lots of...
Never... That's...
Against Root Man, you never played again.
That's also, there's also the bit of no mentioning Titch. When Titch came into the band, he was in the line-up, but that was a line-up for a long time, myself, Willie, Titch and Stuart. But Titch replaced Murr, when Murr also get incarcerated. That's kind of how that came about. Like, I don't know what he got, but it was a wee bit of time, so we had to adjust, and that's how Titch came into the band.
It's great to see Titch
Aye.
there at the Caddy.
Yeah, it's great.
Brilliant.
It's
A lot of time.
That was...
A lot of time for
That was
Titch.
the line-up for quite a while.
Then we went, just before we went to London, Titch wasn't going to London. Paul was, the Midnight Buskers had been in London, you were doing with him. Paul came up. Spent about a month with
That's
us.
one of the questions. Sir.
He's running away. He's
Jump
not
the gun, Willie.
I'm going to choose the questions for you.
Exactly.
Because my next question was, you supported the Proclaimers at Vicky's and you played with the Meteors at Air Pavilion. Tell us a wee bit about their gigs.
All right, when we kind of touched on the Proclaimers there, that was what a night. I can't remember the gig specifically. I remember it was absolutely packed.
Remember
to
the sweat running
to
off
the
the
point
walls?
They were over
Oh,
on
to the
definitely.
point of
Aye.
like actually the sweat running after
people were
ceiling.
almost on the stage.
So
I was both of them. I was the
I mean, that was
Meteors as
kind
well.
of just as they were breaking through
the first album,
big
was it?
time,
That's
aye.
the
So
story,
it was
yeah.
a brilliant night, although
Aye.
I can't remember much about what we played or anything like that. As I said, it's the first gig, doing it and doing vocals and playing, but...
We started to get gigs out of that though, because what happened is there was obviously, I think the Cut magazine were there and they did something on it and somebody was there that was doing gigs up the East Coast. It sounds like it was up New York, but you know what I mean? That was the world away for us. You know what I mean? I remember we did a gig in Edinburgh. We picked our gear up outside Vicky's one day and we didn't know how we were getting to Edinburgh. And a guy come up and he went into a van, a car park across the road and we said, would you take us to Edinburgh for a gig? And him and his mate did. I mean, that's how unprepared we were. But out of that night, this guy
Oh, but that was
licked it up with the
was-
G-Uni and all
that
these
was Andy.
places,
That wasn't like a total random stranger. It was Andy McKnight.
all right.
It was Andy
Did the
McKnight.
same for us going to
Aye.
Paisley.
So,
with the
remember,
Legion.
he was-
Paisley,
They
aye.
made the
Aye.
they
But
made-
Stevie, they gave us
maybe
Andy's
it was-
brother.
aye.
Aye, Stevie.
Aye, wasn't it Andy?
Aye, it was Stevie.
It was Stevie,
Aye.
and if Stevie will always remember the mistake he made. The Edinburgh Festival was on, and him and his mate ordered a tomato salad.
Oh,
And it cost them about $5 each or something.
tomato salad.
Aye,
Who ordered a
Well,
tomato
they
salad?
didn't they? They went to get something to eat, and that was all they could get.
That's all they could afford.
Aye, that, so it wasn't even completely random, but I remember that night. But that's when we were starting to go further afield and play gigs like that. Like, what was the name of that place? It was a bit dodgy, wasn't it? Down the bridges.
It was up to the roundabout across the Edinburgh Playhouse, because it wasn't Edinburgh Playhouse.
Leith Walkway, was it?
Top of Leith Walk.
We played in the venue. We
played
played
the venue there with that LaRue, that friend.
Well, that's right. I was there that night.
aye,
That
was-
was something they were called. What were they called?
I get that.
LaRue.
LaRue.
Aye, that was it.
Oh, they were a
It
great
was in the
band.
dressing room with a big pile of albums. I thought, I'm for one of them, but
Aye, aye.
the guy was
I know.
smoking all the time.
The other bit of the question, the Meteors, that was John that put that gig on at the Air Pavilion. That was a lot earlier. That was the early days because
We'd only been
we
going
were
3 months.
we were playing. We were actually playing their songs. And Paul Fenech, he was my hero and a scary motherfucker. You know what I mean? A lot older than us, and I actually had to ask him, is it alright if we play some of your songs? And he said, as long as you can play them properly. And stood at the side of the stage and watched me playing the guitar, which I was kind of like shitting it, but it was a great
Pluckers took
night.
them no long.
I know, I saw that.
Aye.
I don't know, when was that? 80 what?
Must have been about 84,
4 or 5.
85.
Aye.
Because we came down, me and Bruce came down to watch you that night. And I remember getting to the door and the guy says, "Oh, it's not opening now. What to go in for half an hour?"
For some reason at that period, the kind of Killie Casuals had adopted us, and for bizarrely a kind of rockabilly band, they used to come whenever we played, and obviously it being in air, they decided that they were gone and had to get a police escort right down the promenade and all that, aye. So big hats off to them, because it added to the chaos. I don't it was all good.
So,
I was at that gig, but I can't remember the Meteors at all.
No.
Can't remember.
I can mind playing a gig at the Grand Hall. It was a gig at the Grand Hall of Council Pool, and I can't remember who it was for. It was us and another couple of bands, and there was no bouncers. They hadn't booked bouncers, and they said the gig can't go ahead. Another folk were in the hall. They'd all paid to come in, and Roddy stepped in, and Meechan. I don't know if you were there or no.
Probably.
And they said, "We'll be the bouncers."
they would have done a good job.
They did, aye. And the folks had really let a gig go ahead. There's maybe about 7 or 8 of them. They were the bouncers for the night, let a gig go ahead.
Well, I can remember that gig there, waiting for them to come and all that, and they turned up with their minibus, and Phoenix comes in with an axe series shooter, and just like, fucking wow.
They also, their transit van was all fitted out with like
Hooks,
baseball bats and all that sort of stuff. And we ended up, we did that purely because when you went away, you're in Dundee, let's get drunk, we'll go and battle the van. And,
Sure. We never created American football helmets and baseball bats. So that was a great experience.
So in the late 80s and the early 90s, you moved to London. How did that go?
Well, to me that was the making, is because we went to London with a single purpose as a band. All right, we had to get jobs and all that, and we wanted to play gigs. Through Paul initially, we get good links into the Marquee. We played that place about 15 times. Played it with some amount of people. We were rehearsing all the time. You were writing. By the end of that year or so in London, probably I was too quick to get us to sign with somebody. It was almost like the first person that came along was going to give us money. But by that point, we were kind of cooking. We'd recorded a few times down there in Islington. Some good songs came out of that. So it was good from the sense of bonding the band. And
It was a different environment. The gigs, we've got a lot of good. You're playing like proper venues. Kind of a bit more. It's hard to explain it. I mean, you were kind of under it. It was a
There were venues that were
higher level. Aye. Mean Fiddler, like Opera in the Green. It was all proper touring bands playing in
More
that.
left to get back recognition.
Yeah, although you were picking up all the support slots, like especially the Marquee and stuff. So it was a great experience. Like
you're rehearsing in places and you're sharing a room with the Stranglers who are in after you.
we were rehearsing in places that we couldn't afford to rehearse in.
So that time was you two, Stuart and Paul.
Paul had replaced Titch.
Touch, aye.
Yes.
And Dougie came halfway through that period.
In the place, Stuart.
Yeah.
The Stuart had decided that it just... Well,
That's how it was.
it's quite kind of hard going. You were working... We were funding everything myself. You're paying for recording. You're paying for it. I don't know. The big man just got to the point where he's going to be...
Aye.
He didn't want to do it anymore.
This is fine.
Wasn't any big faults or anything like that. It was just... He just decided that he didn't want to do it anymore. So that's when Dougie arrived with his Coca-Cola bag. That's right.
Yeah, when you go
and
to
a guitar, and that was him. I went and picked him up at Victoria Station. That was him moving to London. Although he'd been in London before, he wasn't a novice. He'd stayed there before, but literally, that was him moving to join the band with a bag that size.
Who was in it? 2 pair of boxers and a pair of socks or something.
I think there's a Flexo.
Flexo.
That was that. So, aye. That was
And
that.
it sums Douglas up, really, doesn't it?
That was that period, but a lot of good songwriting and
I tell you, you've placed a very good guitarist, a very, very, very good guitarist.
You
There.
were
always
lucky.
been,
Aye.
I've always been blessed, aye.
I'm tired of being stood on, always feeling used. I gotta make a change, yeah. I got nothing to lose. Tonight I'm gonna take a fast car. I'll drive to the morning light. I'll be alright. I'll be alright. Drive on crazy, free dreamer. Drive on, oh my crazy dream. Drive on crazy, free dreamer.
Hey, tell us a story about the time you were in the marquee. It'd been, I remember you telling me this years ago. And you were in to get Paul, and there was a guy playing the puggy. Take it with there.
Oh, aye.
The guy played the.
Oh, aye, all right, aye. When they Silas Cooper. When they come in and they say,
Why did they reckon
I didn't know who he was. Do you know what I mean? He's gone, like, can you tell me how to work this cigarette machine? And I'm like, nah, you need that change. Put him in and got me his fags and all that, and then gave me his fags, and then somebody went, that's Alice Cooper.
But that was a mental place.
He didn't have his makeup. Recognise him.
Yeah, we used to kind of mix. There's quite a lot of famous people in the green room. Willie and Paul
worked
both
in there,
worked in there. I was there. Like,
Lemmy and Lenny Kravitz and all that. It was a good day. I remember working the night Bros were there and I'm serving in the green room.
We had t-shirts with marquee and staff on the back of them.
Dear boy, and you didn't even work there.
Paul did.
Paul worked in the green room, and it was a good period.
I remember, so we got a gig. It was this guy, first Russian guy to sign a Western record deal, a guy called Boris Grebenshikov.
Yeah.
Don't know what happened to. I'll need to Google that. But anyway, we were asked by Paul McAvoy at the Marquee, it'll be mobbed, it'll be full of record companies coming open up. So we were doing it as usual. We had like Bobo and Brian and all us. And he had like an American entourage. I heard one of them saying to somebody, it's all these wee Scottish guys with cropped hair walking about dead angry with amps.
Who was the guy, Willie, that was the record executive?
Aye, thanks, Barry.
I got him in a headlock.
Right,
He
so,
baldy head, they got him in a headlock and gave him like 5 Johnnies and just let him know.
no, so Paul McAvoy says to me, Willie, this guy's the head of A&R at WA. And I liked the demo and all that, and I was like, great, blah, 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 and he's chatting away. And Barry comes over and starts kind of, for the couple of drinks, and he's kind of carrying on and all that, and Paul's like, Barry, get the fuck. So Barry goes away, and then he comes back a minute later, a bit more intense, and I'm like, Barry, fuck off. And then he comes back a minute later, just gives it. I was like, well, no signing with WA.
Wasn't he meant
I'm
to
like,
be?
does anybody get Roddy's phone number?
It wasn't meant to be. Because you made it no meant to be.
I'm running out of record companies.
That's just you all, isn't it, Barry?
Yeah, man, here. The Sex Pistols get dropped because Steve Jones shat the lassie in the toilet. You didn't get sick because Barry Johnny the guy in the heat.
I think it was letting him go onto that carpet. Carpet was always the one he's
Still own it.
Aye, still there.
the Marquee was a good place for us, but a lot of good times.
Fun memories of London.
memories, yes.
So, how did it end then?
So, it was an intense period. We got in tow with Marquee Records, which was part of Warner Brothers, and they were going to fund some albums. So we kind of grabbed it and came up the road. We were recording in Park Lane and now up in Pollockshaw's Road and rehearsing. The Trash Cans had taken over. They were flying at that point. Their first album had been out. We were rehearsing in the next place as well, and that's what brought us up the road. That money, but that got withdrawn pretty quickly, and I think we lost a bit of. We were kind of down a bit about that. You know what I mean? We were trying to reinvent ourselves and think what's next and all that. And we did produce a lot. You wrote a lot of good stuff running about then, Rain and Me and Much Too Much and all that had emerged and all that, but. We probably had peaked in terms of our intensity and the thing that made us what we were back in that day. But that's what brought us up the road. Money to go and record, opportunity to go and get settled and just do this full time.
And after building the Longhorns name up, you had a name changed to Duke. What was the reason for that?
Yeah, okay. What happened? I don't know. After that, you've always got there, signed to a record label, and that falls through, and it all kind of went a bit flat. I can't remember the exact details. Douglas left the band. Douglas decided he was leaving, and I can't remember why, but you know what I mean? So, I don't know, did you think
It was Paul that came up with the name, but we were looking. He came up with the name because we were thinking we need to do something different, and ultimately, on reflection, we probably should have just taken a wee break. No,
Yeah.
17 years, and we kind of rolled into something else, and lots of good people that we played with in that period.
And then-
wasn't the same.
then we brought in Brian,
Andy.
the singer. Andy was there, keyboards. I'll sum this up, right? I told you I was going to tell you about, and then this kind of sums that period up, right? Okay.
Go for it.
There was a photograph, right? Photographed in the Dean Park, and in the photographs of the band, there was leather jackets, right? And like stone-washed jeans. And I saw the picture and I just thought to myself,
Nah.
fuck this, man. That's good. That was the
I've seen the pictures, man.
You've seen it, right? That is,
Do you remember all
that?
this
No,
gig?
don't worry. And that is what the music was like.
He's rocking a posing.
It was
Aye, and it
leather
became-
jackets and stone-washed
Cover,
jeans.
there was cover versions coming in, and I remember we played a gig once, and me and Barry went out after it, and that ended up being our last gig. We went out after it and said, "Let's take a break," and me and you will get back together in 3 weeks, and 3 weeks became 17 years.
No, it just kind of never, but just
Who
fun.
was Brian?
Brian, the boy for certain. He's a nice guy and a decent singer, but it was just kind of,
Just was
his kind of nickname in the group was Daniel O'Donnell, if that tells you.
Okay.
So it just all became a bit middle of the roady. Keyboards and
Our heart wasn't in it, but then
not very good. I wasn't interested. I wasn't really interested in it anymore. I just get bloated all the time at gigs and just, just
I do recall that, Barry.
huh?
I do recall that.
It kind of run its course where it was just, what are you doing? Like dreams about playing that same set. Oh, no.
we knocked in the head in '92, and we should have probably knocked in the head a year earlier.
Or should we have? I don't know.
Well, knocked in the head and kind of constituted it.
You've got your life.
Maybe give it a year.
You've got your life going on and all. We were 24, 25 and you think you're past it because you're 24 and you actually have to go, I need to think. Like I say, Willie went back to college, Paul went to college, I had a trade, so you go, you have to go on living your life and making money,
Aye.
you know, and because music's not going to fund it.
If this doesn't happen for us,
Which is kind of one of your questions about young bands. I don't know how young bands today would do it. You have, how could you fund yourself and do it full time?
That's a question for later on, Barry.
Alright.
Next one. How has music changed, Barry Meechan?
Me? I don't know.
It's not about the prison.
Wait, Willie, first then, Barry. Give you time to,
Good point.
give you time to think about it, Willie.
I think that is it.
Now, that's a good point because you're talking about when Roddy left the band and all that, and there was an element of criminality about the band. There was, undoubtedly. We used to fund the band by selling drugs and did various
We call the busking.
legal things. Drum kits appeared, guitars appeared, right? That was a fact. So then you have a choice. I was really serious about music and being in a band. So you kind of did make a decision to go, I don't want to do it, you know. So it's had a big influence on me in that respect. Yeah,
Kept me straight and narrow.
kept me out the tin pail, eh?
I need to tell this story. See, I'd got myself a typewriter, kind of, I was writing reviews and all that, and I said to Paul, "Can you get a desk? Can we need to go to somewhere and get a desk?" And Barry goes, "I've got a desk, tenner." I went, "What size?" I said, "Goes, about that size." I goes, "Well, typewriter on it." Barry goes, "I didn't bother." Aye, you didn't bother. I says, "Right, there's a tenner." Again, and then the next, I'll be here for you the morning. I went, "Right, okay." So I got to Paul's back. There's Barry and Paul running down with this desk. I goes, "That's ideal." Barry goes, "Hurry up and get it in Paul's house. My sister doesn't care it's all here."
Unfortunately.
Remember that, Barry?
Aye.
Willie, how's music changed you?
It's quite funny when you come out of the band. Some of the stuff that helped me in my career was the stuff I did with the band, like holding things together, kind of making the best of kind of the money you had, kind of focused on things. That was always a good thing. And you're never far away from music. But a lot of times I would look back and think, this wasn't in me when I was 15, 16, what I'm doing now. And it came for that. You're dealing with loads of people.
Willie ran, as they used to say, Willie ran everything, organised all the gigs, drove the van, hired vans, booked hotels, did all that, and I play the bass. That was like the...
Willie's a planner, I remember.
But it was almost like being like the manager of the band, but as an afterthought.
as well.
Is it true, Willie, you had a plan where everything went in the van?
Oh,
So then I realised we need a bigger van.
to me,
Barry's like, I've got another amp.
I thought he was like unique. There was since
Have you got 3D maps?
and if you're ever to hear about planning how you put things into vans and things, you're not unique at all.
We didn't put that into the end. But that's it first.
We had a taxi driver pulled up recently to take us in all, and I'm like, listen, Paul, leave it to me.
Stephen and sums Willie up. We're going today, I gotta get the cat house. I said, they were in a rush. He says, they're in a reasonable rush.
There's always an element of intensity.
Yeah,
You're probably right what you're saying, Willie, because all that, doing that all yourself, there's a certain amount of stress and pressure come with a band.
The gig was in a...
If you're equating that to, obviously you were in saying you just recently retired, but it was a high-powered job you were in. That's probably...
Is the guy...
Move that to that, you know, it's...
Oh, no.
Is the guy... What was the gig? Is the guy said to you, you were talking to the fellow manager and another band at the Marquee, and the guy's telling you about it, and he goes, and Billy goes like that. That's what I've got to manage and open the door. We used to like putting the lights out and all that.
They're not fighting the player. I said, that's fun.
Barry of the fire extinguisher.
So let me tell the story. We moved up to London, and we kind of got to know Energy Johnson a little bit, right? And we did a couple of gigs with them. But they were playing the Marquee, and their first album had really went pretty big for them in certain senses.
It's fantastic.
Great album. That's the best gig I'd ever seen a band play. Them at the Marquee that night. They were just... So we get asked to get in, but then with Big Geordie back helping us with playing harmonica, so we all left about 5 a.m, back of the van, all measured, Barry, everybody in it and all that. And we got to Killington Lake, first stop, and everyone was priced, your budget's $350, like that, and to get some tea. And you could hear a bit of a kind of kerfuffle at the window, folk all going, look at that. And you turn around and there's Big Geordie with tap off in the lake. And you're like, so you get him trying to laugh, they're at the band, everyone's going. So then we get to London, and because it was well planned, we arrived early. It says you've got an hour before your sound check in the Marquee. So, but then you could just park the van and fucking, Tottenham Court Road, you know what I mean? Charing Cross Road. Just park the van and said, right, okay, back here in an hour every day. So now we're on the stage sound checking, and there's no Doogie and there's no Geordie. To be found busking in the front of a sex shop in Old Compton Street before Oasis did their album cover there. You know what I mean? That's what I was dealing with. You go on the stage at the gig, and that was the good bit.
That was your leisure time, playing the gig.
What advice have you got for up and coming bands, young guys starting out?
I think you've got to enjoy it, first and foremost. Don't go into it think you're going to make any money out of it, because more than likely you're never going to make anything out of it. But like us all sitting in this room, if you're still doing it at this age because you love doing it, well, you've been given a gift that'll do your full life. Going at it as a career, it's probably pretty hazardous, especially these days. As I said to you, I've got no idea how any band now would take anything on the road unless funded by... I just don't know how it's done anymore. I mean, we used to do wee tours up the Highlands, Tenants Live, that were kind of financially no lucrative, but we would make enough out of doing that to put money to a demo. we worked in a tight budget, but you could do stuff like that, or even bands who we were went to see that we thought had made it. Guys that brought out albums and toured and played venues, Glasgow, 200-300. I mean, they obviously made a living doing that. They never. I don't even know how. Can you still do that? I don't know. I wouldn't think so. I don't know. So my advice would be, don't know do it.
I do it.
I think a lot of people probably do it now and have to work to subsidise doing that. I don't know.
I think, see when you start, see when you would have started, we all started, you do it, you have a shared sense of purpose. You don't realise you do, but you want to be in a band because you want to play music with your mates and have good fun. And that's what and then it starts to, well, we write songs. And then you just need to check in every now and again, do we still want the same things? Like we tended to be well aligned. We want to do an album, we want to record, we want to go to London, we want to do this. And other people, we all grow in different directions. People go, I don't really fancy that. And they're no wrong. And we're no right. It's just that if you just check that you're all aligned, that's what keeps the right people together. You can imagine when we actually did stop, it's because we ended up with a group of people that all wanted different things. And it was, we weren't producing anything that anybody wanted. So, have a common sense of purpose. Keep checking what that is. Do we want to do this? Let's go for it. I remember Paul, I think you telling me about the Alarm. They were always focused on the next thing. Are we doing it? Aye. Right, we're doing it. And they would go for it. And if you can get that, it'll keep you going. And then that common sense of purpose will probably tell you when it's time to go.
I'd still say the enjoyment bit out it,
Aye,
because if you take that away from it, then kind of why you doing it?
Aye, what's the
I think you've got to have the mindset of, I'm doing this for the enjoyment, and if anything else comes along,
100%
then that's a bonus.
As soon as you're not enjoying it, you can't go up and go and do
We've
it.
all had dreams of stardom, and do you know what I mean?
They went prison.
Looking back at it now, I thank God. I don't think I'd be sitting here for a start.
I think folk could take it too serious. That's when depression and all that comes.
Well,
And then they miss it because
No.
it's fleeting.
they haven't real
I think we
time.
got to a point, and that's when we did take it too seriously, because we came back and it was all need to do this, need to do that. Like, it did become like that. It became so we rehearsed every day. Every day we were the tightest band.
10 o'clock in the morning
With
in the studio.
what you're producing.
Monday morning.
Shit.
Aye.
You know,
Because you're under pressure.
you know, producing.
You still enjoying that every day?
Well, it becomes a bit relentless.
And then that's at a time when you start falling out with each other because
Well,
he's not
that's-
dating this and he's not dating that. And
He missed that bit there.
aye, things like that. Aye.
Didn't miss it Tuesday.
Let's rehearse that another 50 times. So, you kind of, when you were playing a circuit like that, you did have to be well rehearsed because the sound was often shit. So you kind of had to be able to play the songs blind because fall back. Do you know what I mean? So you knew that you were still
The
playing,
weekends you would pick up that you were still doing
but
it.
then you can overkill it. See if you're not enjoying it, why are you doing it?
So enjoy it and just make
Enjoy
sure
it.
they're all aligned.
Enjoy it in whatever capacity it is.
Willie, what's been your musical highlight over anything?
Well, I don't think it's happened yet. I think it will happen in future. I think some of the stuff Barry's writing and we're rehearsing at the moment and the plans we've got, I think the reason we're doing it is when we look back, we thought we never really best represented ourselves in the form of recording or vinyl or something like that. Let's do it. And that's to come.
What's been your musical highlight up to this point?
Up to this point, there was a time we were just coming back up for London, but we come up, I think, a month earlier, and we did like 4 nights. We ended up, I can't remember where we played. We played Paisley College of Technology somewhere in Glasgow, and I remember in Glasgow, so we didn't really have many folk that we knew because we'd been away, and we played in somewhere, I'm trying to remember the place, I think it was the original Cat House, and it was mobbed, and we were tight as anything. And I remember at the end, I was just sitting, a guy came over to me and said, who you signed with? And I was telling him, and he's like, you guys are... It was really complimentary. I remember thinking at the time, we are quite good actually, this is going to be good from now on. And then, what happens, happens.
Barry, same question to you. What's been your musical highlight?
most of the things I don't remember a lot of things. People would say, do you remember that gig? And they go, I thought they were talking about songs. They started playing a song and I went, I don't even remember writing that. I don't even know that song. And Dougie's playing it and he's going, you wrote it. So I don't remember a lot of gigs. I don't know. Musical highlight. I don't know. We went to play, we were meant to be supporting, was it Energy Orchard? It's Strathclyde Uni.
That was, I mentioned.
We were meant to be playing there and we were supporting them and they pulled out at the last minute. So we headlined it. So probably that, because it was like...
Scary as well.
There was like maybe about 400 or 500, you know what I mean? And we went on and we done it. So aye, that was a great night. And we went down well. So aye, anytime you get done well, I always think, anytime you play,
audience,
you get a good reception. It's always... I can't remember. We did the classic gigs in London where it was like a couple of guys in a dug. A guy was Collie, aye, like that,
yeah.
But you just go in and you play anyway, don't you? That's a highlight as well.
And that's how you learn.
That's that, aye. So
You're working on a new album, how's that going?
it's going really well. Bit slower than, but we're just taking our time.
Are we going to hear all the classic songs on it?
there'll be two, you know. But
No, mostly new songs.
Is it?
So it's mostly new songs, aye.
But you've got quite a good catalogue.
But I don't really like going back.
there's two songs that we think kind of represent as well that we haven't done justice yet. So Razor's Edge.
Drive on is a
So those will be redone, and then there's 6 new songs. One of the 6 new songs was written about 15 years ago when we got together in Berkeley too. And
So
it's not quite there yet, although Dougie got homework last week to say he's going to write a chorus for that, will you? So
that's going all right.
I just like to say.
The process is enjoyable. I still like that's what being a band is. I come in with the idea, and then I can go run and get shelved and brought back 2 months later. Or that's why you're in a band. It's not individual. I'd say when I bring a song in, it's probably only 60% there, sometimes even less. You know what I mean? And then it's the band that kind of works it and puts it together.
You give yourself quite a high bar if you're putting the 2 older songs on. You got those are 2 brilliant songs.
Well, David, this is what happens.
That's good fun.
Use a measure. Any band will tell you the best thing they've ever done is what they're working on now.
They're great.
Any band. So you see until you do it and record it, you're not going to know whether it stands up to it.
You mentioned being at Larry's earlier. Is Larry got something?
Larry
will engineer the demo phase
maybe.
and might be involved in we're talking
Aye,
about the main recording,
Yeah.
which we'll do.
Anybody that knows Larry knows.
I played in a band with Larry after Southern Approach finished.
Yeah.
Few months, it was Neil McIlvany put the band together, and I played the band, and me and him just got on great, and he was just
It's great to see him.
such a funny guy. He's brilliant.
He's like, I think it's 40 years, and I was like, well, certainly Drive On was the last time I saw him.
Mega talented fella.
That's
Brilliant,
So-
talented.
So I hopefully it's so slow it's going to
Doing
work.
work with him, so he'll be involved now. It's kind of 2 or 3 phases to get the album done, so he'll be involved.
So once the album is complete, are you planning to play live? What's the plans for the future?
I'd like to play it live.
You might promote it.
Gigging's for me what other people as they get older seem, for me gigging is everything. Playing over get the other wee band. That's you still play yourself, you play it. That's what it's all about for me is playing, but obviously there will be gigs involved.
Yeah, so there'll be an album, there'll be a launch gig, and there'll be a few other things round about it, of which we said this morning, we'll get to that when we get to it, but we're concentrating on the songs.
Rejuvenated with the whole thing and not excited about it, and that's brilliant.
Davey, what else would you be doing? It's like,
Exactly.
right, then it's play golf, Davey.
No.
Well,
Do you know
he
what?
does.
Well, he plays golf, but...
Well,
so,
Barry, Willie.
Well, Willie does. We're bloody these guys, and this is what we do, music, because it's all we've ever been into, and that, I think it's brilliant. Why would you know what to still be doing it?
Every time I see a picture of Willie's on a golf course somewhere.
I played my guitar for once.
Oh, aye.
I mean,
I love it.
aye, brilliant.
I love it. I mean, I get out get in rehearse every Friday night, alternately with the Longhorns and the Rumblefish, the same week, and it's like, I love it.
Now go up the road, do your homework and go back in the next week.
It's great. I mean, if you're work knackered, but then you go.
What do you enjoy most, live or in the studio?
I prefer live, but I like rehearsing. Do you know what I mean? I really like rehearsing.
You like in the studio better, Willie?
I mean, I like them both. You need it all to get the full picture. But
Exactly.
I was always, those were the rare bits because it cost money. So it was a pinnacle or something. So I liked having that thing. And it was always a kind of touch point.
I just like
Produce.
plugging a guitar into an amp and turning it up.
And then
See, like sitting playing in the house dead quiet and all that. I hate that. You can't, that's not what it's meant to be. It's like, you know what I mean? Go and turn it up and make some noise. That's what it is for me.
Barry likes to rock out.
Aye, definitely, man. Aye.
If you could do it all again, would you change anything?
I think we touched on the bit about when it stopped. We should have taken a break, but a short break, like a few months, a year earlier than we did, and had a who knows.
There's a million bands would say that, like bands that were famous. They go every day, but is that not what it's is that not what it's about? I'm glad they didn't take a break and they split up because it's meant to be of that time. It didn't happen in that time, so it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Don't regret it. I wouldn't change anything about it, but it didn't happen. So
There's a lot of things
we'll have
you should be happy
have
about.
a break for a year and what. You know,
The fact that we never get back for 17 years says that we want a break.
yeah.
That's it.
It's a big break.
I've got no regrets at all. None. Lot of bits you go, I wish. Aye, no regrets about it whatsoever. It's been a great progression, aye. Fantastic.
Last question, is there anything you would like to say to the public?
Wow.
Just, I'm getting that people still remember us. I mean, I've still been in situations where folk will remember the Longhorns like a woman or something, like you'd be doing a job and you see something about the band and you see the Longhorns and that's like of a certain age, obviously. Do you know what I mean? I remember I went when my dad made me go for it. That's a good story. My father made me go for a job interview at some electronics company in Irvine, right? I can't remember one of the big ones down there, but I'd filled in the application that I did soldering, because obviously I used to fix so many guitar leads and all that. So when I actually got for the interview, the lassie that was interviewing me asked about the soldering thing, which was obviously something completely different. I said, I solder guitar leads and that. She went, no, this is like for working with printed circuits and stuff. I went, well, I've not done any of that, no. And she says, what, are you in a band? I went, oh, I'm in a band. She goes, what's the name of your band? I says, the Longhorns. She went, oh, I've heard of you. I thought it was quite good.
You still didn't get the job?
Obviously, not.
She really had heard this.
Willie, Barry, it's been a pleasure.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Cheers, Barry.
Thanks, Barry.
Cheers, Willie.
Bye, boy.
Cheers, Barry.